And you're talking about big wind events, and along the Outer Banks of North Carolina, coastal erosion has claimed dozens of homes, sadly, this year, including one that held decades of family memories. Back in September, Bonnie Lattimore's family cottage in Buxton, here you see, was built by her grandfather almost 50 years ago, collapsed into the Atlantic. Her story is one of many along the stretch of coastline where at least 16 homes have fallen so far this year alone.
Yeah, and Bonnie graciously joins us now to share her family's story. Of course, a lot of memories have been tied to that house. And we want to kind of dig into why you're calling for some change to help homeowners who face the same fate.
Yeah, so yes, seeing that video definitely made my heart race again. It's very emotional for me and my family, losing 50 years of memories. Why we're calling for change is we don't want this to happen to anybody else. I know when they, yep, that's my mom and dad and my aunt and my uncle. In 1976, my grandpa built that house, and you're looking out onto the lighthouse, and it was called Dream House One. My grandma always wanted a dishwasher, and so this house had a dishwasher. It's a very modest house, 800 square feet, one bedroom. That's my daughter in that picture. And that was taken just this summer. And so I'm glad I got to spend one last summer in it. But and that's the picture I used to beg the powers that be to let me move it, because I knew that it was going to fall, and I knew that I didn't have time. That's my grandma and grandpa. And I knew I didn't have time to get all the permits that were required. So I was hoping for some sort of emergency authorization to be enacted so that we could move it back, because I had movers that were willing to move it. They said, we can be there tomorrow. Keep sending these photos. The squeaky wheel gets the grease. And wow, seeing these pictures is very emotional for me. So yeah, I tried really hard to get it moved, and I was just hoping maybe there could be some sort of emergency authorization for people like myself that did have somewhere to move it, had the means. Not everybody does have a lot to move it to. Not everybody does have the financial means to move it. These houses are owned by 4 families. My dad was one of 4, so I had 4, parties that were willing to invest in the move, and unfortunately, we couldn't get approval in time. And so,
Bonnie, I want to ask you about that, because you're painting the picture of how this is families, of course, that are devastated by this, multiple families. There's a lot of emotion with this, and you're talking about some of the changes, right? And you had mentioned kind of that emergency variance for homeowners in situations like yours. So can you kind of focus on that, the emergency aspect? What would you like to see from the local or state officials?
So I think it's definitely the state, not the local. I feel like the county was doing everything they could, and their hands were tied because of the red tape from the state. There's a lot of, you have to get a CAMA permit, and I understand the reason behind all these permits. I do. However, I think in a situation like this, they should allow us to get it out of harm's way, and then we can go through all the permitting processes and make sure that we do everything that they are asking of us, which I was willing to do. And, I would hate if another house falls that has a space to move it, has the financial means to move it, because the process takes so long. For example, we just are in the process of moving our other house that I know Fox Weather shared. It went viral, our other little dream house too. These are tiny houses. It's 2 bedrooms. And it got moved out of harm's way, and it's not up on stilts yet, but we were able to get that done. But I begged and pleaded with them, and I said, look, I can't I've called 6 contractors within a 2-hour radius, 6 surveyors, and I couldn't get anybody to do it until October 16th. And even then I was very concerned, because we're in the middle of nor'easter, king tide, hurricane season, and I was like, isn't there like any sort of emergency that you could just let me move this and then I'll get the survey? And finally, the county worked with me and said, look, we found a guy that can do a sketch for you, and then we'll get your official survey, when you can get to it. I just, I wish that something like that could have happened with my other little house, because I'm also convinced, had they not let me get that sketch to get all those permits, I think my other house would have fallen in, because it was built in 1980. It was our 2 little houses, like you saw in the lighthouse. None of these mansions were there. And this king tide that just came with Hurricane Melissa, I'm pretty sure it would have collapsed had they not let me move it back, because
Bonnie,
the houses next to us are scary.
That has to be so frustrating to deal with, that red tape. I can't imagine what you guys have been through. Real quick, because we're a little bit short on time. I know a lot of homeowners, they actually cannot get the insurance to help move their homes before they fall. Do you think that that's something that could change at the federal level?
Oh, yes, that's a definite thing I would like to say. I think that the federal government should come in, because we got zero money for the collapse of our home because we did not have insurance. But some of these homes, they won't pay you the $250,000 FEMA funds until your house falls, which is environmentally, morally wrong. You should, this house that's falling right now, say they had the $250K, because it's going to cost my family about $250 to move our house back. If this house that just fell in that picture could get the $250 to move it back, they'd way rather do that than let it crumble and then collect a $250,000 check, because they're going to have to pay for now the cleanup. And the cleanup for our little tiny cottage was like $40,000 out of our own pocket. I think that these houses that are huge are going to be way more than that. And so, yeah, I think that having something in place where they can pay the insurance money to help them move if they're in imminent danger of falling would make a lot of sense.
Yeah, and Bonnie, as you had said, you had everything lined up, even people that were ready to move it. We had one person that joined us earlier today on Fox Weather to talk about that, Barry Crum, about moving these homes, what it takes. Take a listen to this.
Generally, it's a pretty quick process, believe it or not. Once you get your permits and the site prepped and that type of thing, I mean, we can move a house in a couple days if it's not real big. Sometimes even faster if we have to.
And so, Bonnie, this is something we're going to continue to follow. We want to thank you tonight for sharing your story and, of course, shedding the light on the struggle for many coastal communities that they're facing. We do wish you and the family the best moving forward with, obviously, your homes.
Thank you so much. And that was our other house that's being moved that you just showed. Barry's our mover. So yeah, I'm very familiar.
It shows once you allow the action to happen, it can be saved. Yeah. It's that red tape. Bonnie, thank you for joining us and sharing your story.